She texted, "I catfished your best friend as you. You won't believe what he said about you." What she didn't expect was that I'd read every message before she could delete them. That afternoon Andrew, 32, was at the office when I got a text from my girlfriend, Lisa, 28. "I catfished your best friend pretending to be you to see what he really says about you. You won't believe it." For a moment, I just stared at the screen, the cursor blinking under her message like a pulse. Then the images started rolling in, screenshots of a fake chat. I had asked questions like, "Do you really think Andrew has what it takes to make it? And be honest, do you think Lisa deserves better?" And Mike, my best friend since college, best man material, Sunday football kind of loyalty, had replied without hesitation. "He's too soft. Not ambitious enough. Lisa could do better." My throat went dry. Lisa hadn't just tested him. She'd humiliated me. A week earlier, she'd already embarrassed me at a work party. I'd made a harmless joke about being late to meetings, and she'd laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Andrew's too nice to ever be a boss." Everyone laughed with her. I didn't. Now this? I typed back one word, "Genius." Then I opened my laptop, half out of disbelief, half out of instinct, and there it was. A fake profile with my photo, my bio, my coworkers, and even my sister added. The account had been created a month ago. She hadn't slipped. She'd planned this. She wanted to see who was real. But all she'd really done was show me who she was. Curiosity curdled into something colder. After I closed Lisa's message, my fingers didn't leave the keyboard. The shared laptop was still awake. She had a habit of leaving one tab open while she boiled water for tea, and I found myself following the cursor like it was a trail of breadcrumbs she'd left on purpose. Her inbox was a small catastrophe, not because of the number of messages, but because of their choreography. Drafts labeled from Andrew sat undone. Casual, mocking notes to friends I'd known since high school. A manipulative feedback message to my manager suggesting I lacked leadership. A carefully phrased text to my sister implying I was jealous of her success. One draft, the sort of petty cruelty that makes you feel sick, was titled "Mental Health Leave" and detailed a convincing, sympathetic version of me needing time off, written in the kind of language colleagues used to lower defenses. She had even scheduled it, penciling in dates that matched a board meeting I'd been nervous about. It was methodical, clinical. Somebody who practices this on the people closest to you isn't doing an experiment. They're executing a plan. I clicked on the fake account she'd used with Mike. The profile picture was my face with a softened filter. The bio a neat little fabrication. Quiet, ambitious, too busy for nonsense. My friends were in the followers list. My cousin, my manager, my sister. The account was less of a mask and more of a paper trail. Screenshots of conversations with names, dates, the slow reveal of a character she'd written as me so strangers would confirm her narrative. And there were others. Messages to a former coworker where I complained about being undermined. A private message to my old college roommate where I hinted that Lisa deserved someone with drive, someone who wouldn't settle. Each conversation had been designed to collect confirming evidence, to build an archive of people saying what she wanted them to say. Confirmation bias as performance art. I sat very still. Something in me clicked into a professionalism I reserve for audits and spreadsheets. This was documentation, evidence, not just betrayal, proof of intent. When the front door clicked and her keys jangled, my heart did a smaller, more controlled flip. Lisa wandered in, bright as if the day had given her some private benediction. "Hey!" she sang, dropping a paper bag on the counter. I grabbed sushi, your favorite. She peeled a roll open like a prize. "You were right. This place has the good tempura." She wiped her hands on a napkin and glanced at the laptop. "Oh, did you see my story? People are insane." Her laugh was casual, the kind that treats consequences like accessories. I set the sushi box down carefully, as if we were on a stage and I had to set the scene before saying anything important. "Pack your stuff, Lisa," I said. Her smile faltered. For a moment she blinked, like a performer missing a cue. "What? Don't be dramatic. Pack your stuff," I repeated quieter. "You're leaving tonight." She looked at me the way you look at a tax form you were sure someone else filled out by mistake. Are you serious? For real? I pushed the laptop around to show her the drafts, the fake account logged in, the breadcrumb trail of conversations. Her face drained the way paper does when you forget it belongs to something important. All color, then blank. You can't just, she started. I held up a hand. Listen. I'd called our landlord 2 days earlier when the idea first landed like a stone. The lease allowed guests for short periods. It also had a clause about illegal activity or harassment. I told him there might be unauthorized accounts. You're listed as a guest on the lease. I can revoke that within 48 hours if there's a risk. That's what I'm doing. She fumbled for the phone and called her mother as if motherhood were an emergency hotline. She put it on speaker without asking. Mom. He's kicking me out for nothing. He's being... Her voice climbed. On the speaker, her mother's voice was a different register entirely. Not shocked. Not defensive, simply precise. Lisa, she said, and the name had the weight of both reprimand and caution. Please tell me you didn't make fake accounts again. That's illegal. You remember what happened last time you got carried away. I hadn't known about last time. It registered now like another tile in a mosaic I hadn't bothered to see. The mother's words were not an apology, not a plea. They were a mirror slapped against a lie. The conversation collapsed into the kind of hurried complaints you make into a receiver when the stakes are suddenly higher than a tantrum. Her tone shifted from outrage to frantic. He's making a bigger deal than it is. You'll regret this, she hissed, voice low and sharp like a threat rehearsed and kept in the pocket for a moment like this. Her eyes were not pleading. They were cold with a calculation I had only seen in the margins of arguments before. Everyone will see who you really are. It was an empty threat because it wasn't accompanied by a plan she could explain. Empty threats can sound dangerous in the dark, but in daylight they reveal the speaker's insecurity more than the intended target's guilt. I watched the person I thought I knew transform into someone who'd engineered a campaign to unspool the people around me. The betrayed part of me wanted to fling the sushi, wanted to call names, wanted to unravel the small kindnesses she'd once been. The other part, the calmer part, the part that had counted budgets and reconciled accounts, began to gather everything into a folder in my mind labeled evidence. She left that night with a duffel and a scream of indignation to her mother. Her door closed behind her with an ordinary click. The apartment felt absurdly large, like an echo chamber for everything she had tried to stage inside it. I sat down at the table, opened a blank document, and began to list names, dates, screenshots, drafts. Betrayal wasn't a single action, I realized. It was a pattern. And a pattern is a story you can prove. By morning, the plot had flipped and I was playing the villain in Lisa's film. Her first story was a shaky, mascara-streaked selfie, voice trembling like a knife in butter. He threw me out in the middle of the night just because I wanted honesty, she said. He's gaslighting me. I have nowhere to go. Comments unfurled like a net. Men are trash. Go to court, girl. Stay strong, queen. A handful of our mutual friends, people who knew both of us, liked and shared before thinking it through. The symmetry of it made my teeth ache. She'd manufactured a truth and now the internet was polishing it. She left out the inconvenient details. No mention of fake profiles. No receipts showing her fingers typing as me. No context, only theatrical victimhood. But she'd forgotten something important. Mutual friends are not a monolith. Tom, my buddy and a litigator who drinks bad coffee and loves good receipts, dropped a comment under her post. Lisa, didn't you say you were going to check his friend's messages somehow? She deleted it so fast it made me dizzy. Too late. I screenshot it. I stopped reacting and started documenting. Calm is underrated in social media wars. I made a Google Drive folder and filled it. Screenshots, the fake account logged in, the drafts labeled from Andrew, the lease, timestamps, the transcript of her call with her mother, and a folder of every conversation where she'd played puppet master. I shared the link with my immediate circle, my sister, my parents, Tom. Tom called within an hour. Andrew, this is serious, he said. Identity theft, defamation, maybe fraud. Document everything. Don't post it publicly yet. Let us preserve chain of custody. If you get served, don't answer on social media. Let me handle anything that smells legal. I told him about the mother's voice on speaker. He swore softly. Lawyers swear softly when they're about to do big things. Lisa's response was instinctual escalation. She showed up at my building with a small brigade, her brother, 2 friends, one of them filming. They pounded on the door in a cadence meant for cameras. The friend with the phone shouted into the lens. He's gaslighting her. He threw her out. Look at him. This man is toxic. I dialed the police. I don't like calling them unless the ledger demands it, but this time the only account that mattered was the one with receipts. The officer arrived, polite and professional. He read the lease. My name on the signature line, Lisa listed as a guest with no claim to residency. And then he looked at the folder of text messages I'd printed and put in his hands. Ma'am, you have 48 hours to collect your belongings, he said to Lisa, voice even. Please leave now. She left with a string of theatrical curses and one last promise hurled over her shoulder like a grenade. I'll destroy your reputation. The theatrics didn't stop at my door. Overnight, a GoFundMe appeared with a blurred photo of Lisa and the headline, Help Lisa, homeless after cruel breakup. A few people donated before the page attracted scrutiny. Someone flagged it for fraud. A friend of mine messaged the platform with the drive link. The campaign froze. Then, another twist. While I was cleaning up the apartment, stacking a couple of mugs she'd left, feeling the absurdity of washing dishes that had once been shared, Tom emailed me with something I hadn't expected. He'd done what lawyers do, he dug. He found that Lisa had a history. Not a rumor, not whispers, digital evidence. Old screenshots in a private group chat where she'd laughed about testing men, and another folder she'd stored in a cloud labeled Confirms. The cloud folder contained names, a list of men she'd tested, screenshots of their replies, receipts of settlements, and, worst of all, one PDF labeled Rogues, Pay 2019. It was a pattern. The mother's offhand last time was now a breadcrumb leading to a trail of similar wreckage. Lisa hadn't tripped. She'd been running. Tom's voice on the phone had a new timbre. We file for a temporary restraining order if she returns. We notify the fraud department about the GoFundMe. We preserve every social post and every deleted comment. Don't engage. Let them come to you through counsel. So I didn't engage. I watched. Her followers churned through phases. Sympathy, doubt, anger, confusion. As our mutual friends posted counter-evidence. Screenshots of her messages, clips of her admitting the scheme in a private DM, the mother's warning. People on both sides started cross-posting receipts. The internet, which had made me a caricature by noon, was now a courtroom full of witnesses by evening. The noise was corrosive but also clarifying. Patterns reveal motives. Motives reveal character. As the days unfolded, the smears and the counter-smears eroded the simple narratives she tried to sell. What remained was the ledger. Timestamps, drafts, accounts, admissions. My life became a file cabinet on public display, and in the careful arrangement of documents there was a quiet power. When she threatened to destroy my reputation, I realized she was offering me an inverted mercy. Reputation is broken into pieces by the careless. I had all the pieces. I wasn't innocent in some naive way. I tolerated small corrosions of trust, but I was not fabricated. Evidence, it turns out, is stubborn. It doesn't need an audience to be true. It only needs to be verifiable. And verifiable is what we had. For 2 full days there was silence, the kind that isn't peaceful, just paused. I convinced myself maybe she'd moved on, found a new stage. I even started sleeping again, half believing the nightmare had finished its run. Then, Saturday morning, Josh texted me a screenshot. Hey man, I've been thinking. Maybe Lisa was right about you. The profile photo was mine. The username had 1 letter off. Easy to miss at a glance. Josh and I were literally on the couch watching the game when the message came through. He turned his phone toward me, eyebrows raised. Guess you're texting me from the astral plane now. Another fake account. She'd learned nothing. Tom didn't waste time. He drafted a formal cease and desist letter that afternoon. identity misuse, harassment, and digital impersonation, and emailed it both to her and to the small local law firm that had handled her previous issues. His message was precise, lethal in tone. Cease all impersonation and defamatory activity immediately. Continued actions will result in civil and potential criminal litigation. That evening, I changed the locks. I replaced the keypad code. Peace, I thought, had to be engineered like a firewall. Monday morning, I woke to a thundering sound outside my building, the kind of deep diesel rumble you don't expect unless you're moving house. When I opened the blinds, a moving truck was parked half across the driveway. Lisa was standing there, arms folded, sunglasses on, flanked by her brother and a friend from her social media army. I opened the door halfway, careful. You can't just show up unannounced. Her expression was performative indifference. I'm here for my stuff. You took your stuff. Half the furniture's mine. That's interesting. Show receipts. She blinked, thrown. Excuse me? Receipts, Lisa. You know, proof of purchase. The couch, the dining set, the TV. Anything. She didn't have them. Of course she didn't. The apartment was in my name. Most items bought long before her Pinterest-driven influence redecorating spree. But she needed the scene. She needed noise. Her brother began shouting about fairness. Her friend filmed everything on her phone like it was a courtroom docuseries. I kept my tone even. You have 48 hours. You can take what's yours, clothes, personal items. Not property you didn't buy. When she tried to step inside, I held up my phone, already recording. Lisa, you're being filmed too. Let's stay civil. The officer from last week must have recognized my address. Dispatch sent the same one. He glanced at her, at the truck, at my printout of the lease. Ma'am, he said with the calm of a man who'd been through too many divorces not his own. You're still under the 48-hour window to retrieve personal belongings only. Furniture doesn't qualify. You'll need to provide proof of purchase for anything beyond that. For 2 hours she stomped and muttered, packing the small things she hadn't already taken. Makeup, shoes, a handful of framed prints she'd bought online. Her brother tried to grandstand, but the cop's hand on his holster ended the performance. When she finally slammed the door behind her, she turned with that same venomous half-smile, the kind that tries to stick. You'll regret this, she said low. Everyone's gonna know who you really are. The recording caught every syllable. By evening, Tom had sent her lawyer the formal cease and desist, now upgraded to include the new impersonation account, the harassment visit, and a warning of pending legal action for defamation. His closing line was pure poetry. Further attempts to weaponize social media against our client will be treated as intentional reputational harm and pursued accordingly. The next morning, my phone rang. Lisa's mother. Her voice was exhausted, brittle at the edges. Andrew, she said, please don't press charges. She's not well. She'll ruin herself if this goes to court. I was quiet for a long time before answering. She needs to delete every account she made under my name, post a public apology, and she needs to agree in writing never to contact me or my family again. If she does that, I won't push it further. Her mother exhaled, the sound of someone bargaining with reality. I'll tell her. The day after, Lisa's social media went dark for 12 hours. Then came a single, sterile post across all platforms. I let emotions get the best of me. I said things I shouldn't have. I'm sorry to those affected. No names, no context. But the timing was obvious to everyone who'd followed the drama. Comments were divided between sympathy and disbelief. Her usual stay strong brigade was quieter now. The apology wasn't for me, it was for optics, damage control wrapped in remorse. But still, reading it felt like the first real breath I'd taken in weeks. Because beneath all the noise, the screenshots, the fake accounts and performative tears, the truth had settled in its own quiet way. For the first time, she was out of my orbit, and all that remained was silence, paperwork, and the slow, heavy calm that follows when a storm finally spends itself. Could have ended there. It should have. But Lisa never knew how to stop. She only knew how to escalate. Silence, for her, was the same as defeat. 2 weeks after her public apology, I got a call from my sister Emma. She sounded off, that kind of careful tone people use when they're trying not to startle you. "Hey, did you send me a referral for a design job?" "No." "Why?" "Because I just got an email from Andrew, senior consultant," she said, her voice tightening around the words. "It's offering me a freelance position with some startup. Says you recommended me. Wants me to upload my portfolio and fill out a quick form. Send me the email." The address was a giveaway, some random Gmail variation of my name with numbers attached, written in the same overly polite, slightly mechanical tone Lisa used when she was trying to sound professional. The message even had my company's logo copy-pasted into the header, but pixelated, like it had been screenshotted. Emma had sensed something off immediately. She'd played along for a bit, replied with casual interest, asked a few baiting questions. "What's the client's name? Do you have a contract template?" And received vague answers. Then she'd opened the job description attachment on a secured virtual machine. Inside was a Word document with embedded tracking metadata. The author field said, Lisa W. That was it. No ambiguity left. She'd gone from slander to impersonation to full-blown criminal stupidity. When I forwarded everything to Tom, he didn't even bother masking the satisfaction in his tone. "She just gave us her own confession in metadata form," he said. "This isn't civil anymore. This is criminal." That afternoon, he filed a formal police report. Cyber harassment, identity theft, attempted fraud. He attached screenshots, IP logs, timestamps, the fake recruiter email, everything Emma had collected. The detective who took the case said quietly, "You're not the first to report her. We've been waiting for something concrete like this." 3 days later, I got the call. They'd arrested Lisa at her parents' house. The image in my head wasn't triumphant, just inevitable. A small suburban street, flashing blue lights reflecting off glass. Her mother watching from the porch as officers handcuffed the daughter she'd warned and defended in equal measure. Her mom called me that evening, sobbing so hard her words came out in fragments. "Please, please, Andrew, don't ruin her life." I was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "She did that herself." When the official charges were filed, they sounded almost surreal on paper. Identity theft, cyberstalking, criminal harassment, attempted computer intrusion. For someone who once called herself too clever to get caught, it read like a resume of arrogance. In court, Lisa looked nothing like the digital villain she'd performed online. No mascara streaks, no confidence. Just pale, shaking hands and a voice that cracked on every apology. "I was just heartbroken," she cried. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." The judge, an older woman with an expression carved from granite, leaned forward slightly and said, in a voice that could cut glass, "Being heartbroken doesn't make you a criminal. Committing crimes does." The sentence wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. 1 year probation, 100 hours of community service, mandatory therapy, and an order to pay Emma $3,000 for emotional distress. Her record would remain if she violated a single condition. But then came the part she hadn't anticipated. A week later, my company's IT department flagged multiple failed login attempts on my corporate email, all traced to a home IP that matched hers. The same laptop metadata confirmed it. She tried to access my professional network, maybe hoping to find something to prove her side. That attempt alone was enough to escalate everything. It became a federal charge, unauthorized access to a corporate system. The company's legal department coordinated with Tom, forwarding everything to the authorities. The following month, Lisa stood before the same judge again. She didn't cry this time. She just stared at the floor as the judge added another year of probation, restricted internet access, and ordered a full psychological evaluation. When it was over, she shuffled out of the courtroom in silence, trailed by a lawyer who looked like he regretted answering his phone that morning. Her mother didn't show up. I watched from the back row, not with anger, not with satisfaction, but with something heavier, that muted kind of closure that feels like standing in an empty theater after the play's ended, the lights still warm but the stage completely bare. There was no applause, no victory lap. Just the sound of the clerk's gavel, a faint echo of what could have been avoided if she'd just chosen honesty instead of control. That was the last time I ever saw her. The court case closed like a heavy book on a shelf, each page marked with her misdeeds, each line a reminder of what had been engineered against me. Lisa now has a criminal record for cybercrimes. Ohio is her home again, her parents' small town. The retail job she always claimed was temporary, as if life itself owed her something. Social media is a forbidden zone. The accounts she once weaponized against me are gone, frozen by court order. Most of her friends vanished too, cutting ties once the documents were public. Gossip moves fast, but truth moves faster, and the truth of her actions couldn't be scrubbed with a sorry post. My life, in contrast, found a rhythm I'd almost forgotten. Work was quieter in the way that comes after storms. My boss commended me for professionalism under fire. The promotion I'd earned months earlier was now officially mine. The public scrutiny, the legal threats, the smears on social media, all handled, all documented, all survived. And I felt a quiet confidence in that survival, a sense of moral gravity that no post, no video, no edited screenshot could erase. Even mundane moments had a new weight. I could sip coffee on a Sunday morning without scanning my phone for crises. Could leave the door unlocked without worrying about imposters. Emma jokes now when I recount the story, smirking as she nudges me. Don't pull a Lisa, okay? I laugh, and the laughter feels lighter than it did during the storm. Life has a way of returning to the ordinary once the chaos has been archived and the evidence stacked, neat and unassailable. And in that calm, a new chapter has begun. Sarah, kind, honest, normal, has moved into my life with the kind of steady warmth Lisa never offered. There's no scheming in her smile, no hidden agenda, no one testing me like I'm a subject in some social experiment. Evenings are spent cooking, laughing over shared mistakes, and quietly appreciating that simplicity can feel like luxury after betrayal. Sometimes, in the stillness, I think about how it all began. One text, one test, one act of paranoia dressed as love. Each snowballed, each step rationalized in her mind, each act justified by some internal logic only she could follow. If she had trusted me, if she had respected boundaries instead of trying to create a fake network of confirmations, none of this, the harassment, the police reports, the courtroom drama, would have existed. But trust requires surrender, and she never surrendered. She needed control, not love. And love, I've learned, doesn't need control. Love flourishes in quiet honesty, in mutual respect, in the mundane gestures that betray no grand design but are meaningful nonetheless. So, if this story reaches someone curious, and yes, hypothetically Lisa, which would technically violate the restraining order, understand this. You didn't lose me because someone said something bad about you. You lost everything because you tried to fake what was real and got caught. The deception, the manipulation, the catfished accounts, the fabricated narratives. They didn't vanish. They were cataloged, presented, and held against the light. Justice isn't always dramatic, but it is patient, and it is exacting. The apartment is quiet now. The chaos is cataloged, the digital assaults neutralized, the legal documents filed and finalized. And in that silence, there is not only relief, but also a clarity that feels profound. Honesty, accountability, and patience, not rage, not manipulation, are the currencies of enduring respect. I sit at my desk, coffee warm, laptop open, Sarah laughing somewhere in the background, Emma sending a meme. And for the first time in a long while, I feel something that no court case, no social media smear, no betrayal could ever take away. Peace. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. But after months of chaos, it is enough. And sometimes enough is everything.